Welcome to the Million Pound Mission Podcast. I'm your host, Adam Shively, the PhD, the previously heavy dude, and I'm on a 1 million pound mission. I've personally lost over 100 pounds. I've applied what I've learned from my own transformation journey to help my hometown clients lose over 35,000 pounds in just 5 years. Now I'm on a mission to produce over 1 million pounds of results by delivering my best weekly tips, motivation, inspirational stories, and transformation strategies so that you can gain clarity about what you need to do to reach your goals and give you the confidence to take action. The perfect time to start taking action is right now. So let's do this. This episode is sponsored by my free 14-day Hello Abs starter course. Just head on over to my website, www.transformationcoach.me, and get signed up for free. I've got a 7-day done-for-you meal plan, 14 days of 10-minute body weight follow-along workouts, and plenty of daily motivation and inspiration to get you going. So head on over to the website, transformationcoach.me, and sign up for free. Hello, my friends, and welcome to another episode of the Million Pound Mission Podcast. It's your buddy Adam, the PhD, the previously heavy dude. How is it going out there in podcast land? I'm really excited. This is a first for the show. This is our first repeat guest. Mike Daggett, a.k.a. Fad Dag, is back, and he's going to drop some wise advice today. This is a great episode. We had a lot of people that loved the first time that Mike was on the show, and he is just blowing up. His show, Wise Advice, is a top-rated podcast, so it's always nice to have somebody like him on the show to bring some knowledge, to bring some energy, and he does not disappoint with this episode. So we dig into his story. A lot of you may not have heard his story yet. He actually was very near getting kicked out of the military because of his physical condition and where his body weight was at and his ability to really not perform well on his physical preparation test for the military. So super interesting story there. But we also dig in to his thoughts on the scale and why he personally weighs himself every day, but why he thinks that might not be a great suggestion for you also. We also talk about how he's entered into this maintenance zone now where he's lost 90 pounds and now he's just kind of figuring out different challenges and different ways to challenge himself to stay motivated and keep his why strong, but also, forming that mindset where he's okay with where his body weight's at. So that's super interesting. We also talk about some special things he's got going on in Washington, D.C. right now. And also he drops some knowledge for those of you that tend to set goals or New Year's resolutions, and it kind of turns into an epic fail, and how he wants to challenge you to correct that situation and move forward. So high energy episode once again. You're going to love it. Without further ado, here is some wise advice from a main man, Fad Dag. Mike, how's it going, buddy?
Dude, happy New Year. How are you, my man?
I am great, and this is a big deal. You're my first repeat podcast guest. So the popular demand, people are like, I want more Fad Dag. I just have to make them happy. So here we go.
That's cool. That is so cool. Well, hey, everybody. Thank you for asking me to come back. That's very cool.
Yes. All right. So I've been talking with my listeners, my clients that listened to your first episode, and they supplied me with a few questions and topics that they want to hear you talk about. So,
awesome.
But I thought first, I've got a lot of new audience members since the last time that we spoke, several podcasts ago. So I want to talk about kind of just a quick recap of the Fad Dag story and how you started this journey of just reclaiming your health and what, the Fad Dag, where that name came from.
Sure. It's funny. Every time I tell the story, even I pick out pieces that I didn't know back in the day, so here I am, just your average, middle-aged man who's just going through life, not caring, but caring a lot, and I got to the point where, my life was really good. Everything was going good. I got a good house, got a good family, everything is just great. But I didn't realize it could be better, and that was the interesting piece. And so I'm active duty Air Force. You've heard that part of it before. been in the military now for 26 years, and it's my entire life. It's everything I've done in my life has been revolved around being in the military. And that all came to the point where it's getting ready to crash down because I was doing so well in every area of my life except for my fitness. I was working 1 million hours a week, doing everything I needed to do, taking care of everything but me. And I think a lot of us, we get caught in that mindset where we put everything first, and we want to be the best husband, we want to be the best coworker, we want to be the best friend, but we don't ever really think that all we're doing is giving ourselves the table scraps, and whatever's left, and that emotional energy, and that whatever food choices are left, you're not getting the best of what's available for yourself. Now you're giving it out, and that's what I was doing, so that made me really happy. And so I'm active duty Air Force, and it comes up to the point where I come up on my fitness test, and because I didn't prepare, I didn't pass my fitness test. And so the Air Force does a tape measurement. They put a measuring tape around your abdominal circumference. 39 or better is failing, or 39 or worse, I should say, is failing. And they taped me at 46. So here I am 7 inches over, a tape measurement of my midsection. And I got to the point where I couldn't figure out how much I cared or if I cared, but I knew I did. You know what I mean? And so all of a sudden they're like, oh, you failed your fitness test. And so I had to do a counseling session with one of my generals. And he looks right at me. He goes, Mike, what's going on? And, Adam, I tell you, there was a split second in my life where I had the choice to choose integrity or make excuses. And I can honestly tell you, looking back, that was probably the turning point in my life where I owned it. Rather than sitting there and telling him, boss, well, the weather wasn't really good for a good run, or the tape measurement wasn't probably calibrated or whatever. I looked right at him and I said, well, boss, I didn't prepare. And I know I could tell by the expression on his face that he looked at me like, okay, no one's ever said that before. Usually people come up with a list of excuses as to why they couldn't get it done. But that turning point in my life was me saying, you know what? I actually have the ability to control this. And stems from that is a quote that I use, and, I didn't make it up, but I see it all over the internet. But the concept is, if you want to change your life, you actually have to change your life. You just you can't hope for it. You can't wish for it. You actually have to go do it. So I sat there with him, and honestly as I could, I said, no, sir, I didn't prepare for my fitness test. And I said, but I promise you, if you give me another chance, this will never happen again. And he looked at me, and we kind of shook hands on it, and off I went. And, I ended up passing the fitness test. Everything was good. But then that complacency set back in, and all of a sudden I ballooned back up to my highest weight ever, 263 pounds. I'm coming up on a new fitness test again. I had reached out previously to folks and friends of mine and asked for some support and some help. And I got, very, very little support in the sense that I needed. Most of the support was, go to the gym, eat less, work out more, eat less calories than you burn. And all the stuff that I knew about losing weight, but couldn't really figure out how to make it, tangible and how to make it apply to my life. So I had a wingman who walked with me early on, and he got me through some pretty dark times. But even when he went away, because he saw that I was, able to do it on my own, we didn't realize together that I needed a little bit more. So I'm coming up on this very last test, and it's a do or die scenario. And I'm 263 pounds. January 1st hits me, and ironically, here we are, January 1st, as we record this thing. And so January 1st, I start looking at gyms and Googling gyms and what do I need to do? And I went to every gym here in Indianapolis and trying to figure out what their membership rates were. And I walked in January 4th, the Monday morning, as New Year's or whatever, the Monday morning, that morning, as New Year's resolution guy, saying, here I am to change my life. And so I go to the gym every single morning and barely miss a day for January. Go to the gym every single morning, 5 o'clock in February. And at the end of February, I was down exactly 0 pounds. And so that interesting caught my attention as, I'd never been to the gym 60 days in a row before in my entire life. So it taught me something very valuable, is that you can't just burn this off. You have to actually do something different. And even though I was doing something different in the gym, I was doing nothing different with my eating. And so here we are, 263 pounds, 60 days into a workout, no change. And my leadership essentially comes to me and says, Mike, you're a great guy. Everyone likes you. You're doing everything right. But this fitness test thing has just gotten out of control. And we're actually not going to renew your orders, and we're going to let you separate from the military. I tell you, Adam, that hit me like nothing else had hit me. And what I found is people always say, was that your motivation? And I said, well, no, not really, because I had started going to the gym in January. I had a little internal motivation. I just didn't have enough of it to have the right program and the solid discipline on the eating side to take care of it. So I sat with my leadership, and I tell you, I was probably in tears. At least after they left, I was, and I sat there thinking, like, what have I done? And I've been in the military now for 24 years. It's the only thing I know, and you're just going to kick me out? Damn it! I'm a good airman. I do everything that the military's asked of me, and you're just going to let me go? And it was kind of strange in that sense, because it's for the first time in my life that I realized that there's more to this whole thing than taking care of everybody else. And hats off to the Air Force. I mean, of course, I've been a military guy. I salute every single person who ever serves. But when you give your life to something and they just kind of casually, flippantly, just kind of discard it, in a sense, we're just going to let you go. We'll replace you, is essentially what they said. And I realized, like, yeah, I know I'm replaceable in that sense, but it hurt in the sense where I'm like, no, wait a minute, I want to stay in, I want to be here. So I sat there and I pleaded with them. I said, let's give me another chance. Let me find out what we need to do. And they said, well, you have your next test coming up. And I said, yeah, I know, but I'll pass it. And it was interesting. They said, well, if you pass the test, we'll consider renewing your orders. And I knew at that moment that passing the test, doing the bare minimum was not going to suffice. It wasn't the passing score they were looking for. It was, are you a different person or not? And so that was in March, and all of a sudden March 1st and March 8th timeframe, I rejoined Weight Watchers, a program that I had known that worked. And it was I'm a big advocate of theirs, but I also have come to learn that it doesn't matter what the program you use is. You got to find one that fits into your life. You got to find one that you can sustain. You can look at any program, whether it be, Weight Watchers, Jenny Craig, Atkins, Paleo, whatever. You can look at any of those diet programs and you can find people who've been wildly successful. And so when I started realizing that, I realized that there was a common denominator, and that common denominator is you. And if you can just control your mind, change your life, you can completely change your life. So I ended up, systematically going through this process of sticking with it, tracking everything I ate, eating wherever I wanted to, but tracking it, not really changing my eating style, but changing the quantity. And so I'm still doing some burgers, still doing some pizza, still doing some wings, and systematically dropping 91 pounds. But somewhere in the middle of there, when I got to the point around 30, 40 pounds lost, I retook the fitness test. I passed it. And the leadership was like, yay, you passed. Okay. And I knew at that point that I hadn't changed my life. I just dropped enough weight to just barely skip by. And I said, you know what? I sat at my desk after passing that fitness test, and I ate a turkey sandwich, which historically has been a celebration meal at Buffalo Wild Wings, is what I used to always do after passing a test. And that meal, when I sat there eating a turkey sandwich at my desk, I said, I'm different. I've completely changed my life. And I sat there, I ate an orange, I ate a turkey sandwich, and came home and had a normal dinner. Next day, off to the gym, and, did another run. And I started laughing at myself because I said, and usually after I pass a fitness test, it's weeks before I even think about running, push-ups, or exercise in any shape or fashion. And here I am the next morning going out and working out. And now we joke and we say, yeah, the Air Force fitness test is really just one workout we do this week, and it's a mindset that I had to really completely change my life around to do it. I've continued on since then, and like I said, dropped 91 pounds. Now the Air Force fitness test, my goal, my motto is anytime, anywhere, it doesn't matter. I mean, I could get up right now wearing my slippers and bathrobe and go do a fitness test and get an excellent score on it, because that's now the standard for me.
That's awesome.
I'm chasing some bigger goals with that. And, I'm going to ramp up. We talked last time. I'm going for that elusive 100, but I tell you, as a 44-year-old guy, try to get a 9:30 mile and a half run. That is booking. Yep. And I got down to later last year. I got down to a little over like 10:12, 10:15. So I got to shave about another 30 to 40 seconds off of a mile and a half run, and it's doable. But it goes now. Is that the focus, and that's where I aim my energy. But
that's awesome.
That's kind of it, man. That's ever since then, life has just been even more better than I ever knew it was possible to be.
I want to touch on a couple of things now that we've reminded everybody of the Fad Dag story and where you're at now. And, we talked early on this year, and since then it seems like you've been, as far as like your weight loss, you've been in more of a, I hate to use the word maintenance because I feel like there's always goals to achieve and there's always things we're striving for, but more of a maintenance phase as far as your weight loss goes, where it's not like you're trying to drop a bunch more weight, but you're focused on these other things like the running, the PT test, all of that. So let's talk about your strategy and your mindset as it's shifted from, massive weight loss focus to maintenance with that and focusing on other things like the physical aspect. Because I feel like a lot of people really struggle with that transition. So what's your strategy been? What's your mindset been around that topic?
You are absolutely right. And that is a huge struggle. And so, losing weight, and I say this, kind of candidly, but losing weight is easy from the standpoint of you have tons of motivation. When you start doing it and you see the scale continually decline, and your friends start going, wow, you look good. And you drop 10 pounds and you can see the difference. Your clothes start fitting. You drop 15 pounds and all of a sudden people are noticing. And every day someone's asking you, so what are you doing? How are you doing? Man, you look amazing. You look great. You look great. Well, that motivation externally really drives you. And as I was losing weight, the more people that told me how good I looked, the easier it was to resist anything else. And then I got to that point where, people start telling you, hey, you're losing too much weight. That's a whole different conversation.
Yeah.
And, and I'm like, I'm still very overweight. Trust me. I joke. I think I lost another 30 pounds from the first time I heard, stop losing weight. You're losing too much weight. And then there comes a time where no one says anything to you anymore. No one says you look good. No one says you're losing too fast. No one says, what are you doing? You just now are accepted as a normal person, whatever that term is, right? As we redefine normal these days, but they just accept you as that's who you are. And so now you're just Mike, you're just Fat Dag. And so I spent another year after losing the weight of trying to figure out what is my motivation that I'm not getting from external sources. I need to now tap into the internal sources that I own and say, I need to do this. And so I have spent the last year in that maintenance mode. And so I did a lot of running. I ran a bunch of 5Ks, again, trying to improve my time. I did get a little leg injury in the middle of the year last year, that an overuse injury. I think when you run 4 or 5Ks in a month, it's probably a little extreme, especially when you're hitting the 20-minute mark for most of them. And so that it was actually kind of crazy. Real quick, I ran my last 5K that month, and at the 1 mile mark, my leg locked up so tight that I couldn't stand it. The pain was just unbearable. But instead of stopping, I ran the rest of it. Still completed it like 22 minutes. And then I couldn't walk for 4 days. And it almost took me a month to recover. I was stupid. I should have just stopped and walked it. But that pride thing, chasing those goals. But so now I spent the last, year, I weigh myself every single morning. That's my accountability tool. Even before this interview, first thing I did was hop on the scale. And, but I tell you one thing I don't do is I don't give too much power to that number. It's a guide for me. I live in this range, and I'm trying to balance my life with everything else I got going on. And I use the scale as a number. I use my clothing size as a number. I use my fitness goals as a number, my time, and all those together let me know that I'm on the right track. So I really I enjoy that maintenance aspect because it's freeing. There is no, what's the word I'm looking for? There is no no pressure where you have to do this, but but there's internal drive that says you want to. And that's a huge difference. And you have to realize that it's not coming from the outside. I'm sure you've seen the same thing, Adam, is so many people lose the weight. And that's relatively easy. I mean, it's not, but it's relatively easy in the grand scheme of things. But then when it comes to maintaining it, people lose their identity. People think they're someone different. And in a lot of ways, some of that's true. And it's really hard to stick with that program and maintain it. I've read some stats that say basically, if you could maintain your weight loss for 12 months, then the success rate of being able to maintain it is incrementally higher than those who just simply lost the weight, because most people end with that first year gain it all back. So it's a balance for sure.
Right. And I like what you said about the want to and the have to. I recently did a show that I called The Difference Between Motivation and Inspiration. And I kind of defined being motivated as you have to do something. Like when you had to lose weight, you were motivated because you had to, or you're going to lose your career. And the transition to wanting to is now you want to get out there and run. You're inspired to get out there and do the things that you do, whether anybody else tells you to or not. And so I feel like that's where people really struggle with the whole maintenance issue, is they have that motivation. They don't transfer it over into the inspiration aspect once they hit the maintenance mode and are still inspired to live this healthy life. And once that scale number isn't the focus anymore, and it's all about maintaining that number instead of improving it. So one of my goals for the podcast this year is to bring ideas and people with ideas that aren't necessarily something that I always talk about. So like I'm going to bring on people that can teach my audience about being vegetarian and things that I'm not an expert in, or things I talk about a lot. And one of the things that I don't talk about a lot is weighing every day. And that's, I haven't weighed myself in, I think, like almost 3 years, and so but I know a lot of people that struggle, like you had kind of mentioned, with they give that number too much weight, pun intended, I guess. And they struggle with that every day. So I usually tell my clients, every other week, things like that. But like I said, I want to bring all sorts of ideas to the table here in 2018. So if you could just touch again on why you think that strategy works for you and how you keep it in kind of a safe place mentally where it doesn't screw you up.
So it is a huge mental game, that scale. I promise you. And so even though I weigh myself every day, I don't recommend it, because here is the scenario is I know, because I weigh myself every day, it is not uncommon based on what I eat the day before to see a 3 or 4 or a 5 pound gain overnight, literally overnight. And so think about a perfect example was a couple weeks ago. We went to a party, and all of a sudden we leave the party, and a bunch of guys said, "Hey, let's go have dinner." And so we're at 1:00 in the morning. We're having a couple beers. We're having some dinner. I come home. I get up the next morning at 6:00 and I hop on the scale. Well, all of that food and beer is still there. It didn't go anywhere. And so of course it's going to show up on the scale. So if you get defeated by a gain in the scale, then you can't weigh every day. The reason the experts recommend doing once a week or even less frequently is because that 4 or 5 pound gain will, if I continue to work the plan properly and continue to take care of myself, it'll go right away, which it always does. But you have to know that. And so one of the things I tell people is it's impossible. Let's agree on a couple things first. It's impossible to weigh the exact same to the ounce every single day. Would you agree with that?
That is correct.
Right. And it's impossible to weigh 0. Would you agree with that?
That's correct. Yeah.
So if you can't weigh 0 and you can't weigh the exact same every single day, at some point you have to have a positive number in there. And so as you go up and down, you have to keep an eye on the trend line. And so if you weigh yourself once a week, once a month, and you're doing everything right, then the trend line will give you the number that you're always seeing, that negative number, and that motivates you. So if you shift over to I'm going to weigh myself every single day mindset, you have to know a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pound gain overnight over a couple days is 100% normal. And every single time I see it, I can attribute it to the day before. I can say, "Oh, that's right, we had this for dinner," or "That's right, I had a extra beer for dinner," or whatever, and I can see that number on the scale. almost always I can predict my weight, at least the up or down number, when I hop on the scale. And I equate it to, that scale number is I talked to a real good friend of mine. She's a doctor. She's a flight surgeon in the Air Force. We text often, and she's a super duper smart lady. And I asked her, because she just hit an amazing number on her scale and size 0 pants. She just got in and she's just celebrating amazing success story. And she said, but I'm not super happy with the scale number. And I said, well, Doc, let me ask you a question. If I come into your practice and I come in and say, hey, Doc, everything is great. I'm running this. I'm doing this. I'm healthy. I'm fit. Blah, blah, blah. And she takes my temperature and it's 98.7. Are you going to give me medicine? The standard's 98.6. We know that. But if it's 99, are you going to give me medicine? She's like, well, no. I'm like, right, because that's one piece of the entire puzzle. So for me, the scale number is one piece. I do it now because it's right next to my shower. So, I get up, use the restroom, hop on the scale, hop in the shower. It's just that routine of what I do. And I can tell you there are days even now that, I wake up and go, yeah, maybe I don't need to hop on today, but I do anyways, because I'm like, it's just a number. It doesn't change my pant size overnight. No one overnight wakes up in a different pant size. It doesn't happen. So that happens. So I just go, okay, they may be a little snug, but so I just mentally know that it's part of the journey. And I use that data mostly to let folks know that it's just data. It really is just data. And my followers also now go, okay, he weighs himself every day. He's still mentally in the game. And so what I tell my followers and my listeners is if you see me not weigh myself, that's the time to intervene. Don't intervene if the scale number is going up and it's going crazy. Don't even care about that because I'm still hopping on it, which means mentally I'm checked in. And Adam, if you're mentally checked in, nothing else matters.
Right. And I think the key thing with when I'm coaching somebody is if, no matter how frequently they're weighing themselves, if they are changing the way they eat day by day based on what they weigh, that's when there's an issue. Where if they're like, oh, my weight's down, I can cheat a little bit more today. Or, oh, my weight's up, I'm not going to eat today. That's when things get really tricky. And that's when I started saying we need to think about getting rid of the scale for a month or two just to reset your mind. So,
right, because then you're totally rewarding or disciplining yourself based on that number.
Yeah.
And that's that's a terrible mindset to be in. Is the scale's down. Let's go have no. It doesn't work that way. Right. Live your life and use that as a data point to validate what you're doing, not reward yourself for. It goes. I don't know if we talked about on the previous episode, but this sugar deal that we talk about all the time is I tell people, when you keep that sugar addiction alive, it'll always be there. And if you work out just to have sugar, you're never going to break the addiction to sugar. So same thing, if you weigh yourself and it's down and then you go have, some terrible food as a result of it, you never break that addiction. I always say you're keeping your bad addictions on life support. And so and if you keep them on life support, they'll regrow.
Yep. So I think the scale topic, it's a big issue. So if you guys out there are wondering how often you should be weighing or, whether or not you should be weighing at all, then leave a review for this episode and we'll make sure that we cover it in depth in the show notes and things like that in the blog. So we can cover this. We could probably talk about this for a couple of hours on its own. So now I want to make sure that I know you've got some big things going on that you're fully inspired to help as many people as possible, and especially people in the military to, become as healthy as possible and not fall victim to the situation that you found yourself in, a couple of years ago. So tell me a little bit about what's going on with you helping others and helping inspire others with the military.
Sure. I think you and I were a lot alike in this sense. Is once we found out that this was doable, we really wanted nothing more than to say, hey, guys, you can do this too. And so one of the things I really, really am happy about is that my whole premise, everything I do, I wake up going, how can I reach more people? This isn't about fame for me. This isn't about money for me. And I think you and I agree in that sense. I laughed. We were watching the New Year's Eve celebration last night. There were people on TV in Times Square singing that I had no idea who were. I will never reach that level of stardom, and so here they are. They've hit it big, and I don't have a clue who that person is. So therefore, don't chase fame. It's just not going to happen in that sense. And so I wake up going, okay, how do I reach people, not from a fame standpoint, but from a let them know that they can do it standpoint. And I was very fortunate. The military reached out to me. The Army National Guard here in Indiana reached out to me, and they had me come in and talk to a group of soldiers who are struggling. And all of them are either failed their fitness test or they're very close to failing it. They're just in an unhealthy state. And the number one retention issue in the military today is we're losing people because they're overweight. I don't know if you saw, but the United States Navy just released a policy where they're no longer going to separate someone strictly because they're overweight. And they said that they gave a pass to 40,000 people as a result of that policy. So it's just the Navy has 40,000 people that they were potentially processing for discharge. And so obviously, my hat's off to the Navy, but the policy is a little flawed in the sense where, the Navy is a little short-sighted in the sense where they're doing it because they need people in the Navy. They don't care, not that they don't care, but they don't care in the same sense that you and I care about people changing their lives and getting healthy. What they care about is their mission can't continue without people. And so they're saying, okay, we'll let them stay in and we'll get them the help. And the reality is they don't know what that help is. And the few people who understand it are those who've lived through it. So the Indiana Guard has brought me in, and I talked to the Army soldiers, and really the message I deliver is you can do it. I can't tell you how to do it. I can't tell you why to do it. I can't tell you what to do. I can give you some guidelines. There are things you can do, but you got to find what works for you. And so I leave them with the belief that they can do it. And so that has kind of ballooned up a little bit and just kind of grown crazy, where we decided that, let's form a nonprofit. And we got to the sense where I knew in my early days I didn't know what the resources I needed were. Luckily, I was in a place where I could afford them, but so many people can't. You can't afford to go hire a personal trainer. You can't afford to hire a nutritionist. You can't afford your gym membership, even though a lot of folks say, well, there's gyms on base. Well, the Guard and Reserve folks don't have access to that. So what we want to do with this nonprofit, we call it Operation Fad Dag, of all things.
Nice.
And so OperationFatDag.org it's a nonprofit that we're starting where we're going to say military members who are overweight, who are now potentially facing administrative action and or discharge, let us know how we can help you. We're going to get you and your entire family on board. So it's not a one-person shop. The whole house needs to change if you're going to have true lasting change. So we'll pay for, we're still working through the details, but the concept is we're going to pay for the Weight Watchers program or Jenny Craig or whatever program they need, or personal fitness. If they want to go to Transformation Coach down in Bloomington, Indiana, we'll pay for that so that they can get the true help they need. And what's interesting is that, I joined the military at 150 pounds or so. No one joins the military overweight. No one. In order to join the military, graduate basic training, you have to pass the fitness test, and you have to be height and weight compatible. And so if no one joins overweight, why is the number one reason we're kicking them out overweight? And in my case specifically, no one said a word to me until I failed the fitness test. And so from the time I joined to the time I failed a fitness test, I had gained close to 100 pounds. Now, why wouldn't we, I take ownership, but why wouldn't, when I gained 20 pounds, someone say, hey, Mike, you've gained 20 pounds in 2 years. Is everything okay? Then I gained 30. Hey, Mike, in the last 5 years, you've gained 40 pounds. Hey, Mike, in the last 10 years, you've gained 60 pounds. Is everything okay? No, none of that happened. The only thing that happened is, oh, you failed your test. And at that point, my behavior was so out of control that to reverse that whole process took a lot of self-discipline. So imagine if we could get to, a young airman or a young soldier who joins, and we know that there are stages in life that people are going to have incremental weight gain. Going to college is one, birth of a child, death of a family member. Those are things in life that historically come with it weight gain. Why don't we work with those folks when those life events happen and say, hey, look, we keep an eye on your weight, not as a number more than anything else, but just let's assess the whole person at that point, but let's use the weight as one indicator and then help them. And so that's kind of where we're at. In my mission, I wake up every morning saying, how can I reach more people? I want every single person to know that what they're trying to do is doable. And you just got to tap into your why so deep that it becomes the most important thing in your day. And you say, why am I doing this? And would I rather have pizza or would I rather make goal? Would I rather have pizza or run a 7-minute mile? You can't do both often. So that's my motivation is to put out and reach as many people. And I think that's why you and I get along so well, because I noticed that in you the first time we spoke. I'm like, yeah, this guy, all he wants to do is help people, you know? And so, and then we start realizing, you know, the only way to help people, there comes a point where you can only do so much. And then you have to start, like we talked about in the last episode, you have to tap in more people and say, I need to build a team around me. You know, I need this thing to become, I need a support team to help me reach other people. And that's kind of where we're going with that.
That's awesome. That's so inspiring too, that you want to get out there, and because you know there's a need for this, and that you're just, you know, you're not keeping this gift to yourself, that you're getting it out there. And I know you're putting a lot of energy. I mean, you are out there blasting the message out every single day. And I saw the Instagram post you put up a couple of days ago with all the live action phones and screens going live every day. You know, on that note, how can people follow your message? What's the best way to connect with you and listen to what you have going on? Because I know you're out there every single day.
That's right. So, you know, fatdag.com is the easiest place to find everything. I put everything goes to that website initially. But you're right. I was live streaming on 5 devices the other night. It was awesome. But at the same point, as I looked at him like, Mike, dude, what are you doing? You know? And, so I had 2 Facebook feeds going. I had one on my Facebook page and then one in a private Facebook group that we have called Wise Wingman. So my Wise Wingman group, we got a private stream. Then it was streamed on Instagram, streaming on Twitter, streaming on YouTube. And it was just absolutely nuts. And so that's when I pulled out. I was like, okay, I need to go find a company that can help me do this, and because I got to get the message out better. But fatdag.com is the best. My podcast, Wise Advice, we have a mobile app. If you go to the App Store, and, you know, go to Google Play or go to your Apple App Store and just search for WHYS Advice with Fad Dag, you know, because why is more important than the how. And so Wise Advice in the App Store, get the app. It's a standalone podcast app. And so that is probably the best place besides, of course, fatdag.com. And, you know, and then every once in a while, I think you can catch me in Bloomington working out with you, right?
Yes, when you come down for a special torture session. And it was so funny the last time that you were down. You know, I booked you to come in when it was just going to be me and you, but I had one of my instructors, they were setting up and they had their spouse there, and their spouse was like, is that Fad Dag? So it was hilarious that they were starstruck with the Fad Dag sighting. So it was pretty awesome. That was pretty awesome. Now, before I let you go, I know we're getting close on time. I want to be respectful of your time. I've got one more key question for you. It's, you know, we're recording this on New Year's Day. And I want to just kind of imagine that there's somebody out there in my audience listening right now that always sets a New Year's resolution to lose weight and get healthy, and it always turns into just that epic fail. All right, a couple days in, and they quit. So if you could sit down with that person, look them in the eye, and give them some wise advice, what would that look like?
I woke up this morning laying in bed and knew that you and I were going to talk this morning. And I saw on Instagram, I saw your post about that topic, and I meant to listen to it before we recorded the interview because I wanted to tap into your mindset as well. And what I can tell you is I'm big on attendance goals. You know, don't set a goal of I want to lose 50 pounds. You have no ability to lose 50 pounds. You have the ability to get healthy. You have the ability to eat right. You have the ability to work out. Don't set a goal of lose 50 pounds because you physically can't change that actual number. Don't set a step goal. You know, I want to hit 10,000 steps a day. Yeah, neat goal. What happens when you sprain your ankle? The first day you sprain your ankle, you can't hit your step goal, and now you've given up on your goal. So don't set a step goal. You want to set goals and things that you actually 100% can control or not control. And so, you know the stat. I mean, so many New Year's resolutions are busted 2-3 weeks into the new year. I think there's a date like February. Oh, I got to look it up. But somewhere in the middle of February, there's a known date that this is the date that almost all New Year's resolutions are busted. So if we know that going into it, then why not just commit to just being a better you? Why not just say, you know what, I'm just going to wake up every morning and do my best. And one of the terms I've been using a lot lately is I really want folks to wake up and do the best they can every day in the set of circumstances they've been given for that day. So I phrase it like this is, how many days can the best marathon runner in the world run a marathon in a row? And so if he runs a marathon today, there's a chance if he's that elite of an athlete, he can probably run it tomorrow. But can he run a marathon every single day for an entire year? No, he can't do it. So at some morning, he's going to have to wake up, and his best for that day is going to have to be to recover. His best for that day is going to have to be do something totally different that's not running a marathon. So you wake up, and no matter what life has thrown at you, you say, okay, this is not what I expected today. So today, my best is to stay mindfully engaged to my goals. So, Happy New Year. Way to take control. I appreciate and applaud your effort for wanting to get healthy. I tell you, there is nothing like it. There is no comparison. I told you at the beginning of the show, my life was great. Everything in my life was going well. I had a beautiful wife, beautiful house. Everything is wonderful. I was a happy guy. I had no idea until I shed the weight. I was actually miserable and depressed because of my weight. It bothered me more than I ever knew, and I only realized it when I completely, 100% changed my life. So again, Happy New Year. You can change your life. Tap into people who've done this. Tap into people who are experts in their field, who want nothing more than to help you. And you got to find the difference between the person who wants to help you and the person that wants to help you empty your wallet. There are complete differences in that. Sure, some good advice is going to cost you some money, but there's a difference between someone who's helping you and they need compensation back for that time and someone who's really just trying to pull out of your wallet and doesn't really care about you. If you find that right network, you find the right support system, without a doubt, everything, and I mean everything is possible. And just go after it and go get it done.
Yes. Ladies and gentlemen, the return of Fat Dag to the Million Pound Mission podcast. Wow. I think, this is a great place to wrap this up, man. You, my friend, I appreciate you and your time and your energy and your message so much. And I feel like you mentioned, like we're on a very similar wavelength where we have a similar message when we're just trying to get out there and help the people that need to be helped, because we know how it feels. We know what it feels like to be that person that is kind of just trapped in this body and in this health situation that we know we deserve better. And we know that we can get out there and rehabilitate our lifestyle and make that change for the better. And we just need a little bit of help to get started. So you guys, I want to make sure that you are following Fat Dag. Check out fatdag.com. Check out the Wise Advice podcast. It's excellent. Like I said, it goes live every single day, and it's always very valuable info. And it's time to take action. This is the new year, new you. And as Fat Dag has said, even if you can't be your best this day, maybe you can still focus on doing your best, So, and that always is going to be a different situation day by day. And every day, like I always say, we have to get out there. We have to own it, own our situation, every meal, every workout, every day. And I will see you on the next episode. So I hope that you enjoyed this episode as much as I did. And if you got anything out of this, some inspiration, some motivation, some hot tips, then I would love for you to hit the subscribe button. I would love for you to leave me a rating and review in iTunes. And I'd really, really love it if you would share the episode on your favorite social media platform. Those are the 3 ways you can help support the show and support our Million Pound Mission. We're all in this together. We're hacking it out together, 1 pound at a time. I appreciate your support, and we'll see you on the next episode.